In the forgotten village of Eldermoor, nestled deep in a valley where fog clung to the earth like a shroud, the name Halwen was whispered only in dread. It wasn't just a night, it was a curse, a fracture in time when the veil between worlds frayed. Every year, as October's chill deepened, the villagers boarded their windows, locked their doors, and prayed. But this year, 2025, the curse would claim more than fear. Amara, a skeptical journalist from the city, arrived in chasing a story. She'd heard rumors of vanishings tied to Halloween Halwen, as the locals called it. People disappeared, leaving no trace, only whispers of an ancient entity that woke when the moon hung low. Her editor called it folklore nonsense, but Amara's curiosity burned. She rented a creaky cottage on the village's edge, ignoring the warnings carved into its doorframe: leave before Halwen's night, or join the lost. The villagers were tight-lipped, their eyes hollow. Old man Harrow, the only one willing to speak, sat by a dying fire in the tavern. "Halwen ain't just a night," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves. "It's her, the Witch of the Hollow. She was burned here centuries ago, on this very night. Her last breath cursed the land. Every Halloween she hunts, and she don't just kill, she takes you." Amara scribbled notes, dismissing it as superstition. But as Halloween approached, the air grew heavy. Her phone lost signal. Her laptop flickered, displaying distorted images of a charred figure in the woods. At night, she heard scratching at the windows, though nothing was there when she checked. The cottage smelled of ash, and her dreams were plagued by a woman's voice, whispering, "You're mine." On October 30th, Amara found a journal in the cottage attic, its pages brittle and stained. It belonged to a girl named Eliza, who'd lived there in 1895. The entries described Halwen's approach: shadows moving without light, laughter echoing from the forest, and a figure that watched from the trees. The final entry, scrawled in panic, read, "She's here. Her eyes are fire. She knows my name." The journal ended abruptly. Amara's skepticism wavered. That night, she set up cameras around the cottage, determined to debunk the myth. But at midnight, the power cut out. The cameras recorded nothing but static. Then, a knock, slow, deliberate, from the front door. Amara froze, her breath visible in the suddenly frigid room. The knock came again, louder, followed by a voice, her own voice, but twisted, mocking. "Amara, let me in." She didn't open the door. She couldn't. Her body wouldn't move. The windows rattled as if clawed by unseen hands. The air grew thick with the stench of burning wood. Then, silence. Amara thought it was over until she saw her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes weren't her own. They glowed like embers, and her lips moved without her will, whispering, "Halwen comes." Desperate, she fled to the village, but it was deserted. Houses stood empty, doors ajar. The church, once a sanctuary, was locked, its windows smeared with ash. In the town square, she found footprints burned into the ground, leading to the forest. Against her better judgment, she followed. The woods were alive with whispers, branches snapping under no weight. Her flashlight flickered, then died. At the heart of the forest was a clearing, and in it, a pyre. Not ancient, but fresh, built from blackened bones and twisted branches. At its center stood a figure tall, cloaked in shadow, her face a ruin of charred flesh and blazing eyes. The Witch of Halwen. She didn't speak, but Amara felt her thoughts invade her mind. "You came to me. You belong to me." Amara ran, branches tearing at her skin. The witch's laughter followed, a sound that clawed at her sanity. She stumbled back to the cottage, barricading herself inside. But the walls groaned, and the air grew hotter. She saw it then, her shadow on the wall. But it wasn't hers. It moved independently, its hands reaching for her. The clock struck midnight. October 31st, Halwen. The door burst open, though no one stood there. The witch's presence filled the room, invisible but suffocating. Amara's screams were drowned by the sound of her own heartbeat. She clawed at the floor, trying to escape, but the cottage seemed to shift, trapping her in a maze of endless rooms. Each one held a mirror, and in each mirror, her reflection smiled with the witch's burning eyes. Days later, a search party found the cottage empty. Amara's belongings were untouched, her cameras blank. The journal in the attic had a new entry. In her handwriting, "I am Halwen now." The villagers never spoke of her again. They knew the curse had claimed another. But in the forest, on moonless nights, some say you can still hear Amara's voice, twisted into something not human, calling from the shadows. And every Halloween, when the fog rolls in, Eldermoor locks its doors, praying the Witch of Halwen passes them by. She never does.